Whenever people talk about FI meetups and retreats and stuff, they always talk about this magic that occurs, or this sort of buzz that happens when FI people get together. I think, Brenda, you might have mentioned it to me before. It's kind of like this perfect storm, or this perfect environment of this perfect condition for this kind of, I don't know how to describe it, FI magic to happen. Because the way I think about it is, so people in the FI community, this FI stuff is quite, others might find it a bit weird and they're not quite sure what it is. So they keep it to themselves. They read about it to themselves a lot, and they think about it to themselves, and they don't really have like an outlet. Maybe some of their friends and family might know about it, but I think typically, people's sort of circles, in their circles, their friends or their family don't really know much about it, and they don't really want to hear about it. So you keep it to yourself, like pent up. So people coming to these events potentially have got all this pent up FI energy, and they want to release it. So and then having this retreat is like this perfect kind of environment in a nice location. You don't have to wait until you reach financial independence to start enjoying your life. You can do that much earlier and start living a life that you love and that's true to you. Welcome to Freedom Before FI. Using FIRE and life design techniques, we help you create freedom on your way to FI instead of waiting until you're retired to do the things that light you up. I'm your host, Greg, a FIRE movement and life design enthusiast. If you're itching to get freedom now, then let's do this. Hello there, my friend, and welcome back to the show. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I've got two awesome Aussie guests on today, both hailing from Melbourne, Australia, Brenda and Scott. So let me just quickly introduce them, and then I'll explain why we're all here. And maybe after the introductions, guys, if there's anything I missed, please feel free to add it. So we've got Brenda, who you might remember from episode 70. She dropped by to talk about building FI communities. She's the founder of Firespark Retreats, which is a weekend getaway for FI enthusiasts. We've also got Scott, who left full-time work back in 2023 to be a consultant, and he now works on his own terms. He runs a really cool blog called Scott on Fire. It's a personal blog where he writes about his FI journey, philosophy, and living a good life. So we're all here today because Brenda has another Firespark retreat scheduled coming up in August this year, and it's going to be based in the Gold Coast of Australia. And so we wanted to share more about it with you in case you're interested to join, or whether you're already booked to go and you wanted to hear more about it, or maybe you might know someone else. That might be interested. Well, anyway, Brenda's also asked Scott and myself to speak at the event. And so this episode is a little bit of a teaser and a way for you to get to know a little bit about us as well. Yeah, so in terms of the format, I'll be asking Brenda a few questions to begin with about the retreat, and then we're going to switch places, and Brenda's going to be asking us questions for us ins. So with that, Brenda, Scott, was there anything else you wanted to add in terms of introductions?
No, just so super excited to be back on the podcast, Greg. And yeah, really excited for Firespark Retreat. So we'll get to meet in person, Greg, after having a few online chats. And we're super excited to have you and Scott come and talk at the retreat.
Sorry, I'll jump in here, Greg. I just wanted to say thank you very much for inviting us both on the podcast. It's really good to be here, and very much looking forward to sharing some of my thoughts on FIRE and hopefully getting people interested in the retreat and what we have to talk about. So, like I mentioned, very, very excited to be a part of it. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. It's great to have you guys on. Okay, so with that then, if we could just kick things off, Brenda. Brenda, do you mind giving the listeners a bit of an overview of the retreat and generally what to expect?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, people might have heard of other kind of overseas, weekend fire retreats. You've got Campfire in the US, and they've expanded out to some European locations. We've got Fire Freedom Retreat in Bali. That's a sort of a 5-day one, highly recommended. So, a couple of years ago, we decided, we need to have these things down under. So, I did Firespark Retreat in 2024. And there's also another retreat called Tribe Fire in Australia as well. So we're definitely building that really good fire connection across Australia with these retreats. So Fire Spark Retreat itself, I like to think of it as the intersection between a weekend away with some really cool friends, whether that be new friends or people that you already know from the fire community, and a chance to kind of learn, reset, ask questions of people that you know aren't going to provide judgment, that kind of thing. So it is really that chance to connect with people that just kind of get you, and that you can share maybe a slightly unusual life path that you're considering. You can share your money goals and things like how you're thinking about lifestyle design, which I know is right up your alley, Greg, and that you can sort of put those thoughts out there without judgment. Obviously, get to hear from some amazing speakers. So Greg and Scott here, and I've got some other talks that will share later on, closer to the event. And although there might not be the biggest names in FI, the reason that I picked both Scott and Greg is because I feel like they have a really unique voice in the fire space. They've got something that's slightly different to share. And I think, we can listen to all the podcasts and get all the, Fire 101 kind of information. But I think it's when there's like a slightly different way of thinking, a unique voice, it makes us think a little bit differently. And that's what the chance to come to the retreat and to do is all about. So on top of that, it's just a fun weekend away. Hopefully it'll be sunny on the Gold Coast. That is what it's known for, the Gold Coast, for the Gold Beam sun, and eating at some local restaurants for dinners. So nice big group dinners, heading out for park run if that's your thing. There's definitely a few park run enthusiasts in the fire community, and just exploring some of the, some local fun activities together. So yeah, just if you haven't been to a fire event before, whether it be a sort of a daily meetup, or a multi-day one, but you love to talk all things like money mindset, living your best life, and just thinking a little bit differently. If you love food, traveling, finding a bargain, then Fire Spark Retreat will hopefully be something that you would really love. So please come and join us.
Sounds great. I'm really looking forward to it now. Yeah, so Brenda, so if someone's listening to this and they're thinking about, oh, okay, so it's a retreat, it's a weekend thing, could you give them a little bit of an idea of like maybe just an outline, like the day to day and what day does it start and then when does it finish, just so it gives them a little bit more details around that?
Yeah, sure. So it starts Friday afternoon, finishes just after lunch on Sunday. So it just does fit into sort of a weekend away if you don't sort of have the opportunity to take too much time off work. Having said that, we also have a couple of days of other activities planned for the Monday and Tuesday after the retreat. So people that want to stick around, make a little bit more of a holiday out of it, there's opportunities to do that as well. So Friday, we're sort of just going to gather. We're going to get to know each other because, we're going to be a group of, probably about 30 people or so. And some people will know each other from, previous events, or a few of us obviously coming up from Melbourne where it's going to be winter and we're all escaping to the sun. But we really want to be welcoming to people that might be their first fire event, or they don't know that many people there or anyone there. So really just getting to know each other, and just kind of settling in. And Saturday, that's when we kind of like kick things off. So during the day, we'll sort of kick off in the morning with a couple of talks. So either yourself or Scott speaking, and there'll also be breakout sessions. So breakout sessions are really just sort of crowd funded. So we'll have some topics available for people to decide what they most want to talk about, and then they'll be scheduled. So in our groups, say it might split into two different groups depending on which topic interests you most. You'll go to whichever group interests you, and then within that group it's just kind of like a small group discussion. And for those people that have been to multi-day fire events, these are something that kind of does appear on the schedule, is these breakout sessions. I know with my last Fire Spark retreat that I ran, there hadn't been any of these kind of events in Australia, and I was a bit like, oh, is these breakout session things going to work? So we didn't quite do it like that, but having since been to other, multi-day events, the breakout sessions actually work really well. These small group discussions, it's kind of a smaller group, and by the second day, all of a sudden, everybody starts to know each other, and everyone's really happy to share and sort of get into the conversation. In the afternoon, you have a little bit of free time. So the structure of the event is you get a ticket. It's got 2 nights accommodation. It's got your restaurant dinners, lunches, breakfasts. Obviously, there are wonderful speakers and those sort of activities. So a little bit of free time in the afternoon. There's a nice pool area at the hotel. So you might, if it's warm enough. Otherwise, we're about 10 minutes walk from the beach. So you can, head down there for a nice leisurely stroll, get an afternoon coffee, something like that. And then we'll reconvene for dinner at a local restaurant and some fun activities, which I won't spoil the surprise, but some fun activities on the Saturday evening. And then, Sunday kind of similar, but obviously just up until just after lunch. So some talks in the morning and lunch, and then we'll sort of have our farewells. For anyone that's sticking around, we'll then obviously have some activities on the Sunday after evening, and then a couple of day trips Monday and Tuesday. So that's pretty much the weekend.
Sounds amazing. And just last one from me then is I just wanted to ask, when you done the previous retreat, what were some of the sort of key takeaways that some of the participants took from that one? What was some of the lessons learned that they took away, or new learnings or inspirations, or anything you can share, like maybe 2 or 3 things that people kind of took away from that one that, potentially could take away from this one coming up?
Well, I might put him on the spot, and I might throw to Scott, because Scott actually came along to the first Fire Spark retreat just as a regular old participant. So Scott, what was your takeaway from the event?
I think one of the most interesting things about the retreat was the diversity of the people that attended. We did see quite a lot of people who were very early on their fire journey. There were some people who've already fired. So everybody had different things to learn. And I think the important thing when it comes to fire is, you might be, the wealthiest person at one of these retreats, or you might be the person who's been, fired for the longest, or, the best in some area of life. But ultimately it doesn't matter, because everybody that attends these retreats has so many unique things to offer and so many alternate perspectives that no matter who you're speaking to, I've gone to retreats and, learned things from people nearly half my age and been like, wow, this person's really amazing and inspiring in terms of what they've done. And, similarly, there's been other people where I've been able to inspire them when they're at a different stage in their journey. So I think the key thing is that if you go in with an open mind, there's a lot you can learn, and there's many different perspectives out there. And ultimately, you may find that maybe the one that you've been working towards isn't quite what you were looking for. And actually, maybe one of the ideas you come across at a retreat may be exactly what you're looking for or what you need right now.
I love that. I love the diversity and, different learnings from different people. All right. So, Brenda, was anything else to add to that one, or should we move on?
No, I think Scott really covered it. It is, I think the biggest thing about these retreats is learning from the other people that are there. Like, obviously, we learn things from the speakers, but for speakers, we've read your blogs, we've listened to your podcast. So sometimes it's like just a little bit of nuance that we might get out of your talk, but it's like talking to 30 other people that you've like never heard of, that aren't famous, that don't have sort of some type of content, but they have really interesting life stories, because they are obviously thinking about living life a little bit differently. But that's sort of all of us in the fire community. So there's always something to learn. I think that's a really good summary, Scott.
All right. Okay. So we'll move on to the move on now. So be switching the tables. So Brenda, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, sure. I'll ease in easily with my questions. But the first question that I've got for you guys, if you want to just give us a little hint about what it is that you're speaking about at Fire Spark Retreat. So, Greg, I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so essentially the key focus that I'll be talking about is life design. So I'll just give you an example. So this podcast, Freedom Before Fire, is about trying to find elements of freedom and finding bits of joy on your journey before you get to FI. So one of the ways you could do that, one of the most powerful tools is life design, and that can be deployed at any stage of the journey. But so essentially, it's lifestyle and design thinking merged into one, and you could use that as a tool as and when you need it. So if you look at our lives at the moment, so if you look at your life, we've all got different areas of our lives. Like you've got the finance piece, you've got family, hobbies, careers, side hustles, whatever it is. We've all got these different areas or verticals, as they like to say in the corporate speak. You've got these different verticals of your life, and of course, in the FI space, we love to focus on the money side, the finance side, and so sometimes we focus on that, and sometimes in some cases we focus on it too much, and we kind of neglect some of the other areas sometimes, so it becomes an imbalance. So with lifestyle design or life design, it reminds us to look at those other areas in our lives and to try and get some sort of a balance. So yeah, so that's the main focus of what I'll be talking about. Some of the questions that people might have and that life design answers is, what it helps to answer anyway. It might not answer it exactly, but it helps to answer questions like, what is my purpose? What should I do with my life? How do I find meaningful work? You could use this tool to help get you close to what those answers are. Things do take a while sometimes as well, or it could be really quick. So anyway, yeah, so that's the main focus of what I'll be talking about. And you could use, life design at any stage of your journey. If you're going towards FI, you could use it to figure out, how to get that joy in your life, how to enjoy the journey, so to speak. And also for people at the stage of, if they are at FI or close to it, they could use life design to figure out what is it that I'd like to do, I'd love to do while I am in retirement, while I'm in that retirement phase. So yeah, that's the key sort of area that I'll be talking about. We might go into some like exercises and things like that. So yeah, so that's a bit of an outline there, Brenda.
Thanks, Greg. And really looking forward to hearing you speak again, having done one of your courses around sort of lifestyle design and, design style thinking. So, yeah, excited for that. So I hand over to you, Scott. You want to give us a little hint about what you're talking about?
Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, Greg. It's interesting because I think our talks are going to complement each other quite well. Mine, rather than focusing more on sort of the lifestyle design, my talk was going to focus a little bit more on what happens and what you can do when those obstacles are overcome. So when you've built the lifestyle design, you've achieved that financial independence, you've built all of these systems that help you in life. What do you do after those obstacles have been cleared? What is the next step, and how do you find that purpose? How do you find what the next chapter of your story is? How do you solve the problems that arise from solving the problems that you could previously see? What obstacles do you find yourself coming up to now that the things like money have been solved? Where do you go on those next phases, and how do you hold yourself accountable to continuing to grow and evolve? And my main focus is going to be around making sure that you can build a positive life story for yourself, making sure that you can continue to grow and evolve in a way that is sustainable and beneficial to yourself and to others. So I think with the combination of information from yourself, Greg, where you can build these systems that help you do the work that's necessary. Once those obstacles have been cleared, perhaps some of my thinking can help people really figure out what their next move is and how to move into that using the systems that they've built along the way.
Fantastic. Thank you, Scott. And I'm looking forward to that one as well. So I guess rather than talking about the retreat, we want to learn a little bit more about you guys. So my next question is, we've all got that moment in time where we might not be able to pinpoint the exact podcast or the exact sort of article that we read, but we all at some point went down the rabbit hole of FIRE and then started to, I guess, implement certain things. As you said, Greg, maybe it was started off with the money side of things and we've gone into lifestyle design or these other sort of thinking, money mindset kind of stuff. So I really want to know, so far on your FIRE journeys, what's the biggest life benefit that you've discovered from FI or FIRE, and what has it given you? So I might just switch it up, and I'll go with Scott first.
Alrighty, I could start. So I think the biggest benefit for me was realizing that, well, not only that fire is possible, I think even the knowledge of the base principles of financial independence. I believe that they are one of the most important things you can learn in general. But I think it's a bit of a cop out to just say like the 25 times annual expenses. I think specifically within sort of the financial independence community, I think one of the biggest things that I have learned is that fire allows you to remove problems from your life. Just if you have the means to do so that you've built up across this journey and across, working towards financial independence, whether you've achieved it in full or in part, there reaches a time when you can just solve problems and you can completely remove them from your life, and you don't need to wait until the end to do that. My career, when I was working full time, I was working on consulting projects. There'd often be 8 to 10 projects at once. It was a bit of a nightmare at times. And there were times when, I really wished that I could skip working with a certain client or skip working on a certain project. And, now that I have, even a modest amount of financial independence, it allows me to choose the work that I do. Obviously, I do still need to work here and there, but all of the work-related stress is solved as a result of utilizing fire right now. So, it's not necessarily by following the traditional path of financial independence that's allowed me to do that, but it's by understanding the mechanics of what actually makes financial independence work and how you slot it into your own life. Those are the things that I've been able to use to my advantage, and it's the thing that's given me the greatest increase in life satisfaction since discovering the fire movement in general.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer, and I'll definitely align with that a little bit, even though, I think there's still a couple of projects in my work life that I'd rather sort of not have to do. All right, over to you, Greg. What's the biggest sort of life benefit you've had from discovering and living the FI life?
Yeah, mines are quite similar, but I'll give you sort of two parts to it. So the two kind of benefits would be hope. One is hope, and the other one is confidence. So I'll elaborate more on that. So the hope bit is so pre FI, I was living the what they call the default life. Going to university, find a job, get a place, get a car, whatever it is, the usual default kind of life. So I was doing that, and while I was on that sort of default path, I was always thinking about freedom. I always wanted to find like elements of freedom, whether it's like freedom to do maybe another career or do something different, or freedom to maybe location freedom, or basically freedom to just do things that I want to do. And I always thought that you had to have like a 6 or 7 figure online business, or what we see on like YouTube and stuff, or you need to have like this unicorn startup and make loads of money, and then you could be then you'll be find elements of freedom. And then when I found the fire movement, as you do, it was a bit of a sort of a light in the darkness. It's like, oh, there's this other path you can do, and it's kind of something you could do gradually, and it's actually something doable. You obviously just need to understand some of the mechanics that Scott talked about, like the fire principles, and obviously put time in the market, and do it consistently, and you could gradually get to a place where you can get these elements of freedom without having having these sort of unicorn startups. So it gave me a bit of a sense of like, oh wow, like excitement about life a bit more. It's like, oh right, yeah, because I could actually do this. This is really doable. The second one is confidence, which is kind of similar to what Scott is saying. Is Scott talked about solving problems, and that's exactly what FI gives you. It gives you that confidence to take risks if you need to make life changes for the better. So I'll just give you a quick example. In 2023, my wife and I went on a 16-month sabbatical, and we wanted to do that. We wanted to spend time together. Wanted to have a bit of a break from work, and we wanted to spend time with family. And so, obviously, me asking work for a 16-month sabbatical, they'd be like, "Nah, that's not happening. You can't do that." And so there's no policy at the place I was working. They are an amazing company, by the way, but there was not that policy, so I had to quit. So obviously quitting is not easy. It's not, especially when you have, you need to put food on the table, etc. But because I was on the FI journey and I've been on it, I found out like, oh, I've got a bit of a safety net. Being on the FI journey, you gives you that sort of buffer. So it allowed me to be able to give me that confidence to quit so that we can do it, because we thought okay, we've reached a certain stage on the journey. We're not at FI yet, of course. We reached a certain stage where we didn't have to invest during that period. So yeah, so it gives you that confidence to take those risks, to do things that you'd really love to do. And the result from that is, we got to spend time together. We got to spend time with family, got to spend time with my aging parents who were retired. And that was really nice. We got to spend time with them. And that was all, if I go back to it, because of, being on that FI journey, like that really helped. So, yeah, that was those two things.
Yeah, and I can totally understand that. It does gives you some confidence to quit, and people kind of like, wow, you're quitting, like, and you don't have another job, like, what's going on? But it's still scary though. Having been in the same situation, I think we overlapped quite a lot in our time off. I had a year off around the same time, and I remember us talking about this, Greg, that it's still kind of scary making that leap, but obviously you don't have to also think about, I'm gonna be poor and I'm gonna, have to be living in the gutters because, if I don't get a job, I've got no money and I'm living paycheck to paycheck. So yeah, it definitely does give you a lot of confidence to take some more risks. So for me, I'm very risk adverse. So having that sort of underlying financial security at least allows me to be a little bit more risky in certain areas, anyway. All right,
Absolutely.
let's switch back to the retreat. Obviously, that's what we're here to sort of like talk about a little bit today. So I really want to know what each of you are looking forward to most for a Fire Spark retreat. And I'm going to go to Greg first because I know Scott's been to lots of multi-day events, so he kind of knows what to expect. But Greg, I know this is going to be all new for you, so I want to know what you're excited about.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to say I'm excited to see you guys in person and meet the rest of the gang, because I think, as you mentioned earlier, we mainly like spoke online, so it'd be good to just see you guys in person. So that's the first one. The second one is whenever people talk about FI meetups and retreats and stuff, they always talk about this magic that occurs, or this sort of buzz that happens when FI people get together. I think, Brenda, you might have mentioned it to me before. It's kind of like this perfect storm, or this perfect environment of this perfect condition for this kind of, I don't know how to describe it, FI magic to happen. Because the way I think about it is, so people in the FI community, this FI stuff is quite, others might find it a bit weird and they're not quite sure what it is. So they keep it to themselves. They read about it to themselves a lot, and they think about it to themselves, and they don't really have like an outlet. Maybe some of their friends and family might know about it, but I think typically, people's sort of circles, in their circles, their friends or their family don't really know much about it, and they don't really want to hear about it. So you keep it to yourself, like pent up. So people coming to these events potentially have got all this pent up FI energy, and they want to release it. So and then having this retreat is like this perfect kind of environment in a nice location. You're surrounded by people like-minded who are also like wants to like tell their stories and share their journeys. So I think when you get there, they're like, it's this perfect environment. People are not at work, and it's this kind of step away from your day to day. So it's all of these little elements that kind of like, I think, sort of happen. And that's something that I'm kind of interested to kind of see and be around. And I think what we mentioned, the other part of it is, we mentioned it earlier, was hearing other stories, learning from different people. Because yeah, it's true, when you hear different stories, one is you get inspiration, you're inspired, you're like, yeah, this I want to, maybe this is something that I can do. But obviously you might learn a few little gems here and there, a few little nuggets of wisdom. So I'm really excited to hear those different stories, and meet other people in the community. So yeah. And also, I haven't been to Australia in a while, so I know much has changed now. And yeah, looking to very excited to go to Australia.
And we're very excited to welcome you as well. And yeah, I'm going to guess that Scott may actually have almost the same answer as you, because I know that I was really aligning with, like, there is some special magic at these events. And I think you've got it. You really have understood it, Greg, that it is that pent up, like, I can't talk about this in every single situation that I'm in. And I'm like, but I'm bursting with, like, wanting to talk to people about fire stuff. So anyway, I'll hand over to you, Scott, see if you've either got the same kind of thing that you're excited about or something different.
Yeah, my answer definitely overlaps quite a bit. One thing I will elaborate on from one of the things that Greg mentioned is there is definitely that buzz in the air. When you get this many fire people together, I think the key reason for that is fire people, from the people I've met, generally speaking, are quite high agency. They're very willing to find solutions to their problems, and that's usually what draws them to fire in the first place. It's how can I get out of work? How can I, live a more balanced, holistic lifestyle? And generally speaking, it's increasing your income and saving it so that you can eventually replace your wage income. So generally, the people that you meet at these retreats have a lot of creative solutions for their problems. And like I've mentioned, problem solving as kind of like a big focus for myself, as to how to use financial independence for your benefit. But when you go to these retreats, like I said earlier, you do find so many people who can use fire to solve their problems and ultimately do other really cool things that are completely unrelated to financial independence. I met someone at the Tribe Fire event in Perth. Young man, had a YouTube channel, recently crossed 50,000 subscribers, and he's doing incredible stuff in a very, very small niche. And ultimately, it's, to be honest, so small that he is pretty much the only person doing it. His channel's called The Clay Mason, and he makes clay ducks on video. And it's
Nice.
ultra specific, but he's doing it. And he started out his channel by saying, I'm going to make one clay duck for every subscriber up to 10,000. And he has a wall of ducks. It's incredible. And I found him, was really amazing talking to him and seeing all the stuff that he's done. And yeah, his YouTube is just taking off. And ultimately, that, coming along to a financial independence retreat for him, he was able to get a lot of insights about how to apply this to just his life, his business. And, if he's got, a YouTube channel really taking off, there's a good chance that he may even not have to do the traditional path towards fire and instead do the kind of creator path, which has, come into vogue more recently. But in terms of what I'm really looking forward to from the retreat, this is going to be my 6th multi-day fire retreat. So I've been to all of the ones in Australia. I'm a big fan. So there's lots of friends to catch up with, because there's a lot of repeat customers, shall we say. So lots of people who I'll be very, very keen to catch up with, who I see every few months. And, perhaps this is a little bit selfish, a little bit cheeky, but I am excited to talk and to share some of my thoughts in sort of a formal context. It's going to be a different way to interact with one of these retreats, and especially after attending as many as I have, I think it'll be really interesting to see the event from a different perspective, be a little bit more involved, and see how that changes, the vibe of the event for me on an individual basis. But hopefully, I can also, give an inspirational, informative talk, and inspire everybody else as well. So lots of things to look forward to from Firespark. So I'm very, very keen for it to come as soon as possible.
Well, not long now, but tickets are still available. So you can head to Firespark Retreat on Facebook. So you do need to type in the whole Firespark Retreat, otherwise you get some very odd results. So find us on Facebook and you'll find the link there to get tickets. But my final question for both of you, hopefully it's a short, sharp one. having been a fan of Choose FI, and I really always loved this question in the Choose FI hot seat when they used to do it. My final question, because I've obviously got the microphone and I can ask it, what have you purchased in the last 12 months that has given you the most joy? And Scott, I'm going to throw back to you and finish off with Greg.
Alrighty. This might be a cop-out answer, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to say travel in a broad sense. So when I was working in my career, I did travel for work, but obviously it's not the same. And I've never really committed to travel. And there's possibly a few reasons for that. I think, especially in the early days of discovering fire, I was very much focused on just saving and escaping ultimately. But, my focus on that has certainly changed a lot in, the recent, 2.5 years, 3 years. In the last 12 months, I've been to Bali, I've been to Perth, I've been to Queensland twice, and Sydney twice as well. And for the rest of this year, I have a Singapore trip coming up. I'm going to Italy. I have Fire Spark Retreat. There's Tri-Fi in Sydney, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more things I'll be traveling to as well. So it's something that I've really tried to move towards and focus on as a big driver for how I want to spend my money, how I want to spend my time, more importantly. And, the money isn't the means to that end. It's not the be all end all as it used to be. So ultimately, I want to structure my life around having more of that travel, meeting new people, making those connections, and ultimately sharing thoughts and hopefully a little bit of wisdom with people along the way where I can as well. So travel is exactly what allows me to do that.
Thanks, Scott. And yeah, definitely, I definitely advocate for a very big travel budget, especially if you do have that time freedom that we're all advocating for. So over to you, Greg. What's the thing that you've purchased in the last 12 months that's given you the most joy?
Yeah, I was smiling earlier because this is very similar answer to Scott's one there. But yeah, so I'll touch on it really quickly. So this time last year, my wife and I went to UK. So obviously I live in Philippines now, and we went to UK. This time last year we were there for 2 months. What was different about it is, so my missus Marie, she's from the Philippines. She's never been to UK before. So for me, obviously going back to like, that's where I was born and raised. So that for me, it was just like just normal. But for my missus, who's never been there before, it was a bit of a culture shock. So, her going there, because, we've been together for a number of years now, and I've always talked to her about all these stories about what I used to do back in London and this place, that place, or I'll tell them about like my friends and family, because half my family's still there, and my friends are still there as well. So all of these stories that I've told her about, what was great was, she was able to go to UK and see all these places like, oh, that's my old house. This is the street where, we used to ride bikes, and this is where I done this and that, and, showing all of all the different places where we used to go to, all my old stomping grounds, and her meeting like some of my family for the first time and some of my friends for the first time in person, and going to all the different places and going around UK. Yeah, so that was really cool, and it reminds me of the the Die with Zero, the memory dividend thing, the older memory bank. So that was definitely one for the memory dividend one, because now we talk like, oh, remember that time when we went to this place in York or in Scotland or whatever, and we done this, and so yes, so definitely a good one, a good purchase. 2 tickets to UK.
I love that you both, both of you got the most joy out of experiences. I think, obviously coming to Fire Spark Retreat, it's going to be an experience for people. It's going to hopefully, prompt some of those memory dividends, whether it be like, oh, I heard Greg talk and I had this really great takeaway, or, Scott inspired me to do ABC or whatever. Or it's just like, I met this really interesting person that, I don't know, makes, was it clay ducks or whatever on YouTube? So experiences, like that's exactly what I was thinking, Greg. It was just reminding me of Die with Zero and memory dividends. So important. So add another experience to your list and come to Fire Spark Retreat if you don't already have a ticket. So anyway, that's all my questions. I'm going to throw back to you, Greg.
Thank you, Brenda. Interesting being on the other side of the of the microphone. Well, I appreciate that. So that will be wrapping up there. So basically, if anyone is interested to go on the retreat, it's in August. I think the exact date's 7th to the 9th of August. I'll put the link in the show notes that will give you all the details and how to sign up. Or if you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to Brenda, myself, or to Scott. If you've got any questions about the retreat or anything else that we've touched on the show, feel free to reach out, and we'll be more than happy to help out. So, all right. So with that, have a great week, and catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, guys. Thank you both.
See you all in the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Thank you for spending your time with us today. If you need more help, you can check out our free guides and services on our website, freedombeforefire.com. If you have a burning question or just want to chat, don't hesitate to drop me an email at greg@freedombeforefire.com. If you found the show useful and want to be notified of future episodes, you can click follow on Spotify, Apple, or the app you're currently using right now. If you think the episode will help a friend or a colleague, feel free to share it with them. And lastly, if you learned just one good thing that will help you in your journey and you want to help us out, please do leave a 5-star rating on your podcast player app. That would help us out loads.